What's up guys, and welcome back. In this big Switch 2 update video, we have a lot of information to discuss and share, including a possible confirmation by Nintendo, yes, Nintendo themselves, on what type of cutting-edge expandable storage Switch 2 could have, and on top of that, we'll go over some of the standout rumors and leaks that you should be aware of for Switch 2. Then, following that, at the very end, we'll give a sort of channel update on what has been going on behind the scenes with my content creation and gaming setup with my brand new gaming PC build, and also a second PC build that I'm actually in the midst of making right now. So if you enjoy this content and want to help the channel out, please hit the like button and subscribe for more. First off, we'll go ahead and briefly summarize the key rumors and leaks that I feel are things you guys should take note of about Switch 2 from October to now. And honestly, there really hasn't been that much in terms of new rumors, which is funny since I'm sure you guys have seen the constant barrage of Switch 2 videos daily from just about every single Nintendo focused YouTube channel, which possibly could have made finding this video you are watching right now more difficult because of the oversaturation of Switch 2 quote-unquote boy who cried wolf content out there for the entirety of 2024. There really is just way too many videos talking about nothing of consequence, with most of them having to do with guesses on a Switch 2 reveal date and rumors that just aren't worth talking about from random 4chan posts and other forum posts. So the only key rumors that I think are worth mentioning are Switch 2's SoC production ramping up and retailers in China getting Switch 2 accessories early. So basically there's a rumor from a FamiBoards user known as LIC that a Vietnam Switch 2 production factory received 800,000 units of the T239 SoC as of September 2024, which means if true, mass production is basically getting ready to go wild with millions and millions of Switch 2 consoles prepping for a big 2025 launch, which makes a lot of sense even if the rumor is made up, but it seems like a pretty decent source, so I figured it's worth mentioning. And we also know factually that Nintendo will be showing Switch 2 in just over 3 months or less from now, so all of this does in fact line up. And by the way, as a side point, it should be pointed out that everyone who is discussing the T239 chip right now, mainly on FamiBoards of course, seems to all be heavily leaning towards this being a 4nm chip process, which would line up with my video I did in October discussing and showing why 4nm for the T239 would fit in line with both Nintendo's power consumption targets and its cost actually being less at this point to make for Nintendo than 8nm would be. So be sure to check out my last Switch 2 video if you missed it for those details. Also, the other rumor, or leak if you want to call it, that just happened was that Chinese online retailer Alibaba was discovered having Switch 2 accessories and Switch 2 console cases with tempered glass screen protectors for the Switch 2 even. And they also showed a comparison of how much bigger the Switch 2 screen could be with its size comparison of the Switch 1 tempered glass versus the Switch 2's tempered glass, and it does look a nice amount bigger for the Switch 2. But it should be noted as a disclaimer that this site does have the name Switch 2 listed on the accessories, and since Nintendo has not officially even revealed the system or named it yet, these accessories could be seen as simply good guesses by companies looking to jump out in front to make some quick money, because if you recall back in September, the dimensions of the Switch 2 were leaked by Foxconn, so it would be extremely easy to make accessories that fit just perfectly for the incoming unannounced Switch 2 based on that leaked information. So while it might be cool to see some potential Switch 2 accessories in the wild, it's not really something I'd be too excited about due to the nature of how the information was already discovered about Switch 2 months ago, especially concerning its size. So with that rumor recap out of the way, it's time to discuss a new discovery made in regards to the tech Switch 2 might be using for its expandable storage. And yes, it looks like we have direct proof that Nintendo may in fact be using SD Express SD cards for Switch 2, and in my opinion, this would be one of the most important pieces of new info we talked about yet due to the potential impact it can have for every single Switch 2 owner. Now, back in September, with that Foxconn leaked information that was basically confirmed as true, we found out certain key specs about the Switch 2, things like its LPDDR5X RAM speed and size, and that it would have an internal hard drive of 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage running at 2.1 gigabytes per second. However, ever since that time, it has been completely unknown as to what expandable storage Nintendo would use for Switch 2, and it is also unknown how fast the new cartridges for Switch 2 will be, since you have to think the new carts will be a lot faster than Switch 1. We still don't have any real new info on that front, but what about the potential for how fast the SD cards will be? Now, if you recall, way back in March of this year, we did a video that was strictly based on speculation about Nintendo using SD Express cards for Switch 2, and it was only speculation because there wasn't any direct information connecting Nintendo to the new Samsung announcement of SD Express memory cards, which could reach 800 megabytes per second with the maximum read speed of being just under 1 gigabyte per second. Now, obviously, an 800 megabytes per second to 1 gigabytes per second SD card would still be less than half the speed of the Switch 2's internal hard drive, but it would still be very fast, and fast enough basically to load and run any new game. Also, it should be noted that an SD Express card reader takes as little as 1 lane of PCIe Gen 3, and I mention this for a very key reason, and that is for Nintendo's connection to all of this. It has been discovered that Nintendo is hiring for an electromechanical engineer, and this position requires someone who has experience with high-speed signaling and power delivery on PCB designs that contain elements such as PCIe, DDR4, MIPI, and SD/SD Express. Plus, they need to have expert knowledge of IPC standards and design for manufacturing, best practices for printed circuit board design, which is PCB. So there you have the direct connection from Nintendo themselves to not only SD Express for new hardware, which we obviously know is for Switch 2, but also bringing up PCIe experience needed. And just like with any extra piece of expandable storage or a device like a capture card or a sound card, for them to work on a motherboard or a chipset for a console, you need PCIe Express lanes available to run them on. So yes, if Nintendo was wanting to hire someone with SD Express experience working with PCB designs, then for sure they in turn will want that person to be an expert on how PCI Express lanes work on a PCB printed circuit board. So bringing this all together now, if Nintendo has a built-in SD Express card reader that you can use to plug in an SD Express card on the Switch 2 with, this would essentially confirm future-proofing for storage expansion for the Switch 2, since we know the internal storage will probably be used up pretty quickly, especially if you buy other games in the digital format mostly. I mean, each new Call of Duty game is around 120 to 140 gigabytes these days, and we already know Call of Duty is coming to Switch 2 in the future, so expandable storage is a must. But not just any expandable storage was going to work here for Switch 2, in my opinion, no, and that was the main concern I had when I discussed this back on our Switch 2 live stream in September. Like, for example, if you go from 2.1 gigabytes per second read speeds for the internal storage of Switch 2, and then pop in a standard microSD card to the console for expandable storage, those standard microSD cards are about 20 times slower than the 2.1 gigabytes per second of the internal read speed of the Switch 2. Due to the common speed of those regular SD cards being around 100 megabytes per second, with some getting up to about 150 megabytes per second, which is extremely slow in comparison to what Switch 2 will have internally. So having the option to use SD Express will drastically make up that speed gap between the expandable storage and internal storage, which it does seem like this job hiring is heavily hinting at here for Switch 2. So I think this looks extremely promising, and it would alleviate my concern for not just expandable storage, but for fast expandable storage. All great things with Switch 2's potential. Personally, I think this is awesome information, and I can't wait to hear from Nintendo themselves to finally give us all the key details on Switch 2, hopefully soon. So now I want to give you guys a little bit of a channel update of sorts. A few weeks back, I put up a community post announcing that I was making some major upgrades to my PC setup for gaming and content creation. So yes, I do have my PC built as of right now, and it's the best, most cutting edge gaming PC on the market. I can easily say that just because I know it's the best parts. I got the brand new Ryzen 9800X 3D paired with the RTX 4090 on a Gigabyte X870 motherboard with 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM running at 6000 megahertz on a 4TB Western Digital M.2 SSD with read speeds of 7.3 gigabytes per second. And yeah, I'm getting incredible performance on this rig running games at max settings with insanely higher frame rates, but Not only that, I ended up getting an LG Ultra Gear 27-inch G-Sync compatible 4K 144Hz gaming monitor to run all that on. Then came the problem that I ran into, and that was the capture card. As you might see from the footage I'm showing here from my new gaming PC, I got some screen tearing capturing footage at 144Hz due to my current capture card not being able to do VRR, which is variable refresh rate. Now, don't get me wrong, my AverMedia Live Gamer 4K capture card is awesome for 4K 60 frames per second, but it's limited by HDMI 2.0 bandwidth. So I tried the new capture cards out from Elgato and AverMedia, which was the 4K Pro for Elgato and the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K 2.1. And sadly, on my capture streaming PC, I wasn't able to get enough bandwidth speed to run those capture cards correctly to capture footage because unfortunately, my streaming PC is outdated at this point on its motherboard and its PCIe lanes aren't fast enough, and on top of that, the USB 3 data ports on the back of the motherboard are also outdated and don't support faster USB 3.2 Generation 2 speeds that both Elgato and AverMedia would need for their external variants of those same capture cards. So I was stuck after I built my new monster gaming PC with no way to correctly stream or capture the footage without massive screen tearing. And yes, by the way, I know the trick. I know how you can also double your monitor and stream the preview of OBS to your capture card to get rid of the screen tearing, but doing that is not great due to OBS's legendary interval stutter, which would make my streams and recorded content look like it's running between 30, 40, and 60 frames per second intermittently. And I've already established on my streams that I'm going for maximum quality, and I'm not going to simply settle for a stuttering stream without screen tearing or a smooth stream with screen tearing. So with all that said, I'm now in the midst of building a new streaming PC also with all the PCIe lanes and fast USB 3.2 data ports that I will need, and I'm actually just waiting on shipping so I can build it, which is why it's taken me a while to actually get back to streaming and show you guys the new setup. But as soon as I get it all done, I'll update you, and we'll likely do a live stream test together, and then we'll play a variety of games and see how it looks. But yeah, PC gaming, man, I'm telling you, it's both amazing and it's a headache all at the same time. But wow, the hard work is really going to pay off in the end. And when you join up for my live streams in the future, they will be the best they possibly can be within the limits of the current technology. Hopefully down the line, YouTube will actually start supporting 120 frames per second, since currently the max is 60 frames per second, and so many people are just playing games at 120 frames these days, including me. So we'll just have to wait and see about that. Alright guys, I want to thank you so much for a great 2024 thus far, and each day we are getting closer and closer to 2025 and the reveal and the release of the Switch 2. So that's going to be all for this video, and if you enjoyed this content, please hit the like button and tell me your thoughts about all of this in the comment section, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.